Hi guys. All right, so this week's video is our tutorial is going to be on Matthew 6, and it's verses 25 through 34. And I really had to do some reflection on this because I am a worrywart. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to worry about a lot of stuff. And honestly, with work, I have a gymnastics gym, for those of you who don't know, and it is in a town where there's not a lot of money and there's not a lot of, the demographics are just really hard. And so we struggle. And there are some Fridays that I literally am praying that we can make payroll that day. So I used to really, really worry like all the time. And I did a study on Matthew, and I learned that, God is going to take care of me. And through the years, we've been in business now for almost 30 years, and God has never failed to come through for me. And I think that in itself just shows the power and the concern that God has for us as his children, because he didn't have to provide for me like that, but he chose to because I'm his daughter, and he adopted me into his family, and he loves me, and he gives me grace on a daily basis. And so this passage talks about not being anxious about your life, about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, because the birds of the air are fed, and the flowers are fed and watered, and those things don't last as long as we do as humans, and yet he provides for them every day, which means that how much more is he going to provide for us? So that is what our passage is on today. So I hope that you guys will really meditate on the scripture, especially if you're a worrywart like me, and just remember that God is faithful to provide every single thing that you need. And he may not provide what you want, but he's going to provide what you need every single time. And this passage to me was so much fun to do because of that. It just really solidified the reason that I trust a mighty, mighty God, and I serve him daily. So anyway, I did some tracing in this. So this is not going to be something that, and actually if you look at it, here's the final product. You don't have to freak out. You're not going to have to draw these things. I actually just printed them and traced them, and I'm showing you a new way to trace today as well that might be a little easier for some of y'all than when we did the bunny and the tracing on the bunny. So I hope that you guys will pay attention to kind of how that's done. I used some graphite paper to do that, and I will list the supplies for everything that I did in the description below so that you guys will have that. But anyway, enjoy today's tutorial. I hope you guys have a great week. So I decided to show you a little bit of a different way to trace today. So I got some of my graphite paper out, and I printed out this little bird and put the graphite paper underneath it, and then just traced over it with my pencil. And what that does is it transfers the graphite onto the page. So it's a little bit easier than putting the image underneath the paper and having to trace through the paper. So if your eyes aren't that great, or if you have trouble tracing with just a regular tracing method, you can do this, and it's much, much easier in that you're just basically coloring over the lines that are already there, and it gives you an image. So you can see right here, I'm going to lift it up in just a second, and you can see what it does. So see, it leaves that image there. So I did that on the bird, and then I also did that on the flowers that I put at the bottom, and then I just outlined them with my black pen so that they would stand out a little bit more. And it's waterproof, so that when I put my waterproof, or when I use my watercolors on it, it's not going to smear the ink or anything like that. And then I decided that I was going to write, consider the birds and consider the lilies, because this passage talks so much about, the birds of the fields or the birds of the air and the lilies of the field, and how God cares for them, and he clothes them, and he feeds them. And yet we as humans tend to worry about
our provision, our God providing for us, when the reality is that He's going to provide for us no matter what, because we're His children. So we have to remember that we need to just trust in His provision as our God and our Father. So then I decided to add the title of Do Not Be Anxious, because I had to remind myself, it's very important for me to trust and not be anxious all the time about the things that I need, because there are moments in my life, and I'm sure that you guys have them too, where you're just really, really concerned about how you're going to be able to get through the next moment, or the next couple moments in life, not even the next day, but just the next moment. So that this title is going to remind me that I don't have to be anxious about my life, that God is going to provide everything that I need and make sure that I'm taken care of. So I went ahead and outlined around the scripture as well, that whole passage, so that when I go back and look at my Bible, I can see exactly where that passage is, and I can read it when I need to, and when I need to be encouraged by that, I can go ahead and see exactly where that passage is. And I just added a few little flowers around it to kind of tie it in with the theme. And I pulled out my Neocolors, and I started to color in each of the images. And remember, these Neocolors, they're like Crayolas, but then you add water to them, and the more water you add, the lighter they will be, and the less water you add, the darker they will be. Sorry. So that's what I did. I kind of shaded it from a darker to a lighter blue on the bird, and then colored in the flowers and the lilies and things like that. So I'm going to just let you kind of watch how I did that, and then we will move on from there. So the last thing I did was just kind of color over the title here at the end to make it stand out and to remind me that, I'm not going to be anxious about the things that I need, because God is going to provide those for me. And this is going to help me to remember that, because I've highlighted that really, really brightly with the orange. So that's our page for this week. I hope that you guys got inspired, and I hope that you guys are going to try this on your own and do a Matthew 6 page, so that you can also be reminded not to be anxious, but that God is going to provide all your needs. Have a great week.